In a year of momentous happenings, 1992 was a time for apologies, new friendships, and fears of a new arms trade. When United States President George Bush and Russian President Boris Yeltsin held their first talks since the demise of the Soviet Union, not only had their countries embarked on a new course of friendship and partnership, but fears of a new arms trade were growing. There was a threat that, with the end of the Cold War, the republics and their efficient armaments industry could become major arms dealers in the fragile political world of 1992. Many problems were facing the defense industry of the former Soviet Union as it tried to convert its military production to a more peaceful industry. In the Moscow region alone, 70% of the economy was reliant on the production of arms. With whole cities depending on it, military production didn't just dominate Russian industry in many areas, it was the only industry employing millions of people. The manufacturers of the MiG-29 fighter aircraft, in an effort to diversify production, came up with the MAI microlight aircraft, while this rocket factory was turning its high-tech expertise over to simple bicycle manufacturing. Though some Russian experts weren't so positive about the efforts to change.
Most of the dedicated military industries, they simply cannot convert it. You have to change the entire production lines. You have to retrain the labor force. And as far as existing enterprises are concerned, for instance, missile production enterprises, at best you can use the walls, the roofs, some elements of the infrastructure, which means you have totally to rebuild the enterprise. And maybe it's cheaper even to build a new enterprise than to waste the money removing the old equipment and bringing the new equipment.
In April, following a tense period of escalating tensions and sporadic military incidents, open warfare began in Sarajevo. Heavily armed Serb forces launched saturation bombing attacks on a number of fronts and laid siege to many cities, including Sarajevo. Driven by the prospect of a great Serbia, unified by their Orthodox Christian faith, and memories of Muslim domination under the Ottoman Empire, Serbs had captured 70% of Bosnia. In Geneva, the United Nations Human Rights Commission demanded immediate, unrestricted access for the Red Cross to all places of detention, and the release of everyone arbitrarily arrested or detained. The UN condemned forced population transfers, or so-called ethnic cleansing, as an abhorrent breach of international human rights standards. The Red Cross, which had visited 11 detention camps in Bosnia-Herzegovina, 4 of them run by Serbs, had consistently said all sides in the fighting were guilty of atrocities. United Nations peacekeeping advance teams headed for trouble spots in Bosnia-Herzegovina and Croatia as talks on the future of Bosnia began in the capital, Sarajevo. Early morning convoys fanned out from Belgrade, taking military and police officers to staging posts in Croatia for scouting the terrain where a 14,000-strong UN contingent would take up positions between the warring factions. 3 UN-protected zones were set up in eastern and western Slavonia, in eastern Croatia, and Krajina in the south of the republic. Meanwhile, the 49th anniversary of the founding of the former Yugoslav state, which was made up of 6 republics, occurred in November, even though Yugoslavia was a country that had been reduced to just 2 of the original 6 regions. Because Bosnia-Herzegovina, Croatia, Slovenia and Macedonia had declared independence, Yugoslavia now consisted of Serbia and Montenegro. But the Federal Assembly failed to nullify the decree declaring the holiday, so it was still observed by Serbs and Montenegrins. Until 1991, when civil war broke out in the region, the anniversary had been celebrated as Unification Day. In 1992, the historic town, which had been captured by Serbian forces, was a battle-scarred testament to the end of Yugoslavia, a nation to which it gave birth in 1943. In a year that had also seen an apology come from the Vatican when Pope John Paul II lifted the historic edict of the Inquisition against Galileo Galilei, 1992 was a year of momentous happenings.